All right, so in this video, we have Eric Griffin, who people would probably know from Workaholics or The Golden Hour with Brendan Schaub. That's pretty much what he's up to now, just doing a podcast with Brendan, which isn't the best sign for a comedian's career. And what makes it even worse for him is it seems like Eric isn't very good at handling jokes. Like recently he told this story about this Lyft driver he had who called him Mr. Potato Head, which he got offended by and complained about on Twitter and got Lyft to respond. So he kind of had a Tom Segura American Airlines type moment. And this happened a while ago, but he recently talked about it on Legion of Skanks, and it was hilarious because you could tell he thought everybody would agree with him and be on his side, but it sounds like most people just thought it was funny and he was being too sensitive. Like Dave Smith and Bobby Kelly and even the crowd, it sounds like, just thought it was funny.
Oh, Lewis wrote to Lyft?
Oh, it's 100%.
Dude, listen, I was in a Lyft one time and a lady was being weird. And she says to me, you know, you look like Mr. Potato Head. She said this to me.
Okay. So far making a good point, but all right. What happens next? I'm with you.
So you had an astute
I know what she means, but I mean like time and place. Lee.
Thank you.
You just met the guy.
I just got in your car. I don't know you like this. So I'm like this. I'm tweeting at Lyft. So I'm in your Lyft right now.
Oh, you ratted her out in the car?
Yeah.
Over Mr. Potato Head?
No, it was uncalled for.
Yeah, but it's on the money.
Yeah, but
We're getting old, dude. We're getting old.
Get into a Lyft and somebody's like, oh, you're a fat Patrick Stewart. You would be like, hold on.
Yeah, but if someone got in a Lyft and said...
No, but right away, get to know me first.
And they posted this clip to Instagram, and Eric's just getting roasted in the comments. Somebody's like, this is Karen behavior from a comedian, snitching with Griffin. So he tried to cancel his Lyft driver for an innocent joke. Great look. And he said, get to know me first. Bro, you make fun of people without knowing them. Stop being soft if you're a comedian. Yeah, and also it's funny Eric said that because I found a video of him talking about it right when it happened on his podcast. And he said the lady was talking to him quite a bit before she mentioned that. And Eric was just complaining about everything. Like, he was annoyed she didn't help him with his bags.
It's like somebody that don't really want to do this job. So they acting like they your friend. Like, we not friends. You on the job. You working right now. So I need you to act like you working right now. So, all right. So the other day, I called a Lyft, pulls up. It's a girl. First of all, she's blocking the driveway. You know, other people got to get. I already see that this is going to be a situation. So this is what I don't appreciate. If you're a female driver and you see a big ass bag, I'm not saying you have to lift the bag, but get your ass out the car and act like you're going to lift the bag. Open the trunk up, like, you know, lift the trunk and be like, wow, that looks really heavy. And then I could be like, okay, I'll get it. But don't sit in the car. This chick pulls up and sits in the car and don't get out the car. She don't get out the car. She just stays in the car, right? She don't even come around, open the trunk and be like, oh, wow. No, she just sat in the car. Or I was like, all right, here we go. So I get in the car and I like to sit in the front seat because this is a Jetta. You know what I mean? Like, stop acting like you in the limo. You in a Jetta, so go sit in the front seat like a regular person.
Yeah, Andy just sits in the front seat, then gets mad when the driver starts talking to him. He's like, oh, then the interrogation starts. But it sounded like she's just trying to make conversation, which I know some people, like, they just want to get to their spot. They don't want to talk to anybody, which is understandable. But if you sit next to the driver, I'd imagine they're probably going to try to talk to you. And she's just asking him, like, where he's going, what he does. So it sounds like she was talking to him quite a bit before she mentioned he looks like Mr. Potato Head. And she only mentioned that once he said he's a comedian. So he's already kind of annoyed with her, but I think he got really offended because she asked him what he's been in, like if she's seen him in anything. So Eric listed some things, and her response is, oh, I knew you look familiar. You look like Mr. Potato Head. You know, like that's what he's known for, just looking like the character. Like he's a Mr. Potato Head impersonator.
He's like, oh, it's business? You know, it's like, here we go. So the interrogation starts. Okay, no, I'm going, I'm like, I'm going for business. Oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a comedian. I'm going to perform. Mistake. So I tell her that, and she's like, oh, what? Oh, my God, that's great. You a comedian? You know, if I seen you in anything? Now you have to justify your existence to this Lyft driver. Now I got to be like, well, yeah, I've done this and that. And, and then here's where she drops the bomb on me, where I was just like, I don't want to talk to this person anymore. Because she said, oh, you know what? You do look familiar with your glasses and mustache. You look like Mr. Potato Head. Just like that. It wasn't even like she laughed afterwards. It wasn't even like she was like, ha, 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 or trying to be funny. She just straight up was like, yeah, you look like Mr. Potato Head. And I was like, as if Mr. Potato Head is a real person. As if like a Mr. Potato Head got in her car one time and she was like, oh, that's Mr. Potato Head. Let me, hey, Mr. Potato Head, where you going? Like, no. So I was like, I shut down. I was like, in my mind, get me to the motherfucking airport. Like,
yeah, and the fact that she was serious about it makes it even funnier. I mean, as a comedian, how do you not just laugh at that? And now it's a funny story to tell. But Eric, he got offended and went on Twitter while he was still in the car to complain about it. He said, my Lyft driver just said, you look familiar, like Mr. Potato Head. Now I'm silent. Like, just get me to the airport. He also said, this is going to be my very first bad rating. Y'all need an option. Don't talk to me. And I think that is an option now, on Uber at least. Lyft responded and said, we are happy to get this issue taken care of for you. We'll DM you. But I don't know what they could really do about this, unless Eric wants her to get in trouble or something, which would be ridiculous. I guess maybe Lyft would give him a credit or something. Like, I believe Tom Segura, he might have been joking about this, but he claims after the whole American Airlines situation, they gave him some miles. So if you ever work in your job and you're around one of these comedians, you got to be careful, because if you're doing something they don't like, they're going to let your boss hear it. But it sounds like Eric Griffin has always been somebody who's tough to deal with. Like Adam from Workaholics, he talked about how when he first heard that Eric was going to play a character on there, he was really disappointed because he's worked with him in comedy before, and he said it was awful.
Remember you came in, you're like, I just met Montez, and I'm like, oh shit, who? And you were like, Eric Griffin. And I know Eric from doing stand-up, and I'm like, hard pass, absolutely not. No! I'm going to say the name, no. Because Eric is, I've become really good friends with Eric.
Go off.
But Eric is a total asshole,
He's super nice. What?
He's super nice. He's super nice. Right. But when you're coming up in stand-up,
he's a bitch.
He was just like really mean.
What?
Yeah,
he was mean. That is not what I expected.
Are you saying, like, was he like checking you kind of thing, like that kind of comedy guy? Very nice, just trying to like push you, just to test you.
Yeah, no, he was like, he's like the sage old vet,
right?
And he would always treat me like the rookie.
Yeah, and it's pretty ironic that's what he's like, because he works with Brendan Schaub. Like, if Eric thinks comedians should put in the work and gain his respect, and if they don't, then he's going to treat them like trash, then what does he think of Brendan, who basically skipped all the beginning steps? Like he just jumped right to a Showtime special. I mean, you would think that would be something Eric hates, but he does a podcast with him, and obviously at this point it doesn't really matter because Brendan's been done with comedy. It hasn't gone very well. But in the beginning, when Brendan put out his first special, I'd imagine Eric wasn't too happy about it and was probably talking some shit. But back to the Mr. Potato Head thing, I saw Eric kind of leaned into it a little bit, like after he talked about it on his podcast and made that tweet. He posted this Mr. Potato Head with his face on it, and also Rick Glassman, I guess, sent him a Mr. Potato Head cup for Christmas, and he made a post about that. So afterwards, he's trying to make a bit out of it and act like he just finds it funny. But if he found it funny, I don't know why he's so upset with that lady. Like Rick Glassman sends Eric a Mr. Potato Head, and it's all just fun. Eric makes a post about it and thinks it's funny. But the Lyft driver who started the bit, she gets a negative review and a complaint to Lyft about it. So that's kind of ridiculous. But let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. And then make sure to check out my Patreon account if you want to hear about the time Brendan Schaub accidentally exposed Joe Rogan, or the degeneracy of Ari Shaffir, or the time Tim Dillon humbled Whitney Cummings, or just a ton of other stuff. There's a lot on there to go through. So if you're a fan of the channel and want to help support it and get some extra content, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description.
Talking to Joe on the walk over. How long for me to train to beat Rhonda? That'll never happen.
He wouldn't know. He's not an expert. He's a fan with an audience.
That's interesting.
Pause it. Here's the other thing I don't get. Here's the other thing I do not get. Bert and Joe are close. Other podcasters have, especially in the comedy world, have other comics on, and those hosts are close with Rogan. When you bring somebody on and they throw a jab at your boy, I don't understand how you don't defend them or stick up for them. It's such cuck behavior. I don't understand. I'm not saying he needs to get in a fist fight with Rhonda. I'm not saying these other comedy podcasters have to die on the hill and defend their boy. But what you're not going to do is come on my platform and throw jabs at one of my friends. I don't understand that.
All right, so it looks like the fallout from all the recent Rogan Sphere drama just keeps getting better, because now Rogan's friends are way too defensive of him, which is causing them to attack each other over pretty much nothing now. Like, I think Schaub saw how Schultz handled the situation with Andrew Santino and was inspired by that, so he also decided to call out Bert Kreischer for not having Rogan's back, because recently Ronda Rousey took a shot at Rogan while she's on his podcast, and the clip got a lot of attention, so I think Brendan definitely just saw this as an opportunity to do the same thing Schultz did with Santino, you know, call out one of Rogan's comedy friends for letting somebody talk shit about him on their podcast. But Brendan just seems way too defensive here, which Brian Callen and his producer were kind of trying to tell him, but of course he didn't want to listen. He just thinks they're not loyal enough. I mean, Brendan was acting like this was sad to see and he was really upset about it. But the funny thing is, I doubt Rogan even gives a shit about this at all. You know, especially compared to the Santino stuff. I think that probably actually affected him and he was bummed out about it. But with this situation, I can't imagine Joe watched this clip and is like, man, I expected better from Bert. You know, and you could tell Bert wasn't comfortable about it. And right afterwards, he praised Joe. But I guess that wasn't enough for Brendan, and he thinks Bert needs to be a better friend. Even though it's funny, because Brendan goes back and forth between being like, listen, I have no problem with what Bert did, I get it. But he needs to be more loyal and defend Joe more, and this is some cuck behavior from him. I mean, Brendan seems way more upset with Bert than Rhonda. And it's bizarre, because at one point, when he gets done calling out Bert for not defending Joe, he then starts defending Rhonda and what she said about Joe. So it doesn't make any sense. And also he compares this to Benjamin Netanyahu going on the Nelk Boys podcast.
It's one of the problems we have in mixed martial arts is, you know, this is no different than not Netanyahu going with the Nelk Boys. Big platform, Nelk Boys are great. Not going to get much pushback. I don't know if those guys are up to date on the political climate when it comes to that stuff. So again, it gets views, but Netanyahu can get views wherever he goes. Rhonda's going to get views wherever she goes. She could have went on anybody's pod in this, you know, because she doesn't do it a lot. For me, I think it would have been better for Rhonda if she would have went to somebody. I'm not saying me in the least bit. Ariel, there's so many people out there that she could go on their pod and it just have a knowledge, just to be like, I hear you. But what about this? Do you wish you would have done this different? You know, there's someone just with the knowledge where you can kind of lead her down this road and just ask questions and get her thoughts on it. Again, this isn't on Bert. This isn't his job. So I'm with Bert. Hell yeah, come on. What do you want to talk about? You know? So this isn't anything against Bert. You guys know I love the fuck out of Bert. How are you not defending your boy after all he's done for you? Even if say it wasn't Joe Rogan, say it was a lower level guy. If he's one of your boys, I don't understand how you don't defend them or stick up for them. It's such cuck behavior. I don't understand. So to defend Rhonda too, at Rhonda's level, with like the type of fighting she's done and her accolades, a guy like Rogan, like Brian would tell me, I fought before. You haven't fought. Now, to the average person who's never been in any competition, yeah, they can say they fought. If you're talking to Ronda Rousey or someone that's fought at the highest level.
So he was all over the place, and most people were defending Rogan, and they know that Ronda is just bitter because she thinks Rogan and everyone turned on her, which Rogan can maybe relate to now. But at one point, he was like Ronda's biggest fan. He would talk about how she could beat half the men's division, how she could beat Floyd Mayweather in a UFC fight. And he'd sometimes get emotional even talking about her. But then after she lost her first fight, Rogan realized there are a lot of holes in her game, and he became more critical, which is definitely the reason why she keeps trashing him now and says he doesn't know what he's talking about. Which ironically, if you're looking for examples of Joe not knowing what he's talking about when it comes to fighting, him praising Ronda's striking and her coach is one of the better examples of that, because her striking ended up being a huge weakness and her coach ended up being terrible. So him praising her for that ended up aging so poorly.
You guys training in Brazil on the beach, one of those workout days.
Oh, the open workout.
And you fucking hitting mitts, and I was like, Jesus Christ. What the fuck is going on in your gym? Because your striking has accelerated in these giant jumps. Like every 3 or 4 months when I watch like you hit mitts, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, speed is retarded.
Well, the thing is, people forget that like when I won the title the first time, it was like my 5th pro fight.
Yo, look at after
I was just getting
combinations,
started.
your maneuvering, your
Yeah.
defense. It's not like hit and stand. It's so much different, you know?
Well, you have a lot of striking knowledge. It's very obvious. I've seen the work you've done with Ellenberger and with Travis. Not happy that Ronda Rousey lost, but in a way, it makes things easier because there was a bunch of fucking people that were going, oh yeah? What about Ronda Rousey? She'll kick in. And I made the mistake of saying, like, hyperbole, okay? I'm the master of hyperbole. I've exaggerated all the time. I was like, she could probably beat half the men bantamweights in the UFC.
Is that true?
No, it's not. Definitely not true. I shouldn't have said it at the time. Now it's definitely not true. She could beat a few that aren't good outside the sport. Look, if she gets guys in the ground, she could fuck a lot of people up. Her judo is 100% legit.
Yeah, so it's just funny that Ronda trashes Joe for not knowing what he's talking about, because you could use him talking about her striking as an example of that. But I think Joe just got caught up in the hype. Then once reality hit and she lost her first fight, he's like, oh, she might be in trouble. And he changed his tune, which he probably just feels bad about the whole situation now. And I don't think he really cares that Ronda's taking shots at him, which is what Bird said right after. He's like, Joe's cool. He's not going to care. But Brendan cares. That's more important. He thinks Joe has too many cuck friends around him, and he's the only loyal one. And he's not going to tolerate any criticism or jokes about Joe anymore. Like he said, he finally went to the mothership, which is a big moment for him. But apparently while he was there, a comedian made fun of one of his comedian friends, and it killed the vibe for him. I guess making jokes about comedians at a comedy club is out of line now.
Bert should push back a little bit, though.
I mean, dude, it's got to be a tough position. That's why he was kind of like just laughing because he didn't know what to say. I get you got to defend your boys and stuff, but that's more like I don't know what the fuck to say here.
Yeah, even when I was at the mothership, you know, people throw jabs at close friends of mine, and they threw a jab at a buddy, and everyone laughed, and I just shook my head and went, I'm not jumping into it. I'm not adding to it. Having fun. Nah, man. And that's not my show, you know? If it was in here, I'd be like, nah, hell no. Edit that, Jen. No, we ain't having that. I don't give a fuck who it is. If I came out and come on the show and rip, insert friend of mine, nah, I don't give a fuck. It would do great views. Not what I do, man. I don't give a fuck. It's not happening. Go on somebody else's platform, and they'll find it. That's the world we live in now. Just soft fucking people.
It's kind of wild. She came out of nowhere. Back in the headlines.
Yeah, and out of nowhere, and I would like if you gave me 100 podcasts, I would not have said, yeah, she's gonna come out of her PR retirement and go on Bert's. But I don't get it. Yeah. But maybe she's a fan and feels comfortable with Bert and knows she's not gonna get pushed back and make sense. But this is part of the problem, you know. And again, it's not Bert's fault. Get your views, dog.
And you can tell he's being so passive aggressive towards Bert. And he also might be bitter that Ronda would go on Bert's podcast, but not his. Also, Brendan used to date Ronda at one point. I just remembered that. I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but it's just funny. Brendan's acting like this is a big deal. You know, he also played this for Brian. And while they're watching it, you know, Brendan's already watched this like 10 other times, I'm sure. He's like, defend Joe, Bert. What are you doing? And then Brian's like, this isn't that big of a deal. But of course, Brendan says, oh, no, it's a pretty big deal. You know, he's just trying to make this into something bigger than it is. And it's hilarious because he's like, she's saying Rogan's not a fighter. But then right after Brendan says that, he's like, well, you know, Rogan's not a fighter. He never claimed to be. And you probably agree with her. So I don't know what his problem is. I mean, I think he's just kind of looking for a reason to defend Joe and call somebody out for not being loyal to him. And this was the opportunity he had.
He wouldn't know. He's not an expert. He's a fan with an audience.
That's interesting. Is that how you feel about you?
Never fought.
Defend him,
He
Bert.
fought Taekwondo, right?
Didn't know how to defend him.
Never fought. That's not fighting. It's not fighting.
Well, I'm going to exit this conversation. No,
I don't want you to get any bad DMs. We need to get out.
I think
more to if you want to see this
everybody's
one.
making a bigger deal about it. I mean,
It's a pretty big deal, B.
what do you mean?
When you say Joe Rogan's not a fighter. But I also, but here's my other thing. Rogan's not walking the streets of Austin.
He's never said he was.
Claiming to be some bad.
He wouldn't disagree. He's not going to, Joe wouldn't say.
No.
I would do what Bert would do. Bert was like, oh, where do I go from here? Yeah.
That's what I was telling Brendan too on Shop Show. I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna laugh, because it's
I'm
uncomfortable.
going to have myself a magic.
I would, obviously I'm different than you and Bert. I would defend Rogan being an expert.
Yeah, you're a fighter. I'm just going to have myself a little
Magic Mind
Max because I need some flow. I need
If
some
Bert had
clarity.
that, maybe we would have put up a fight against
If
Ron.
Bert had some fucking Magic Mind, he would have been clear-headed.
So the Rogan sphere is on high alert now. They'll go after anyone, even their own. And it managed to work for Schultz. He put Santino in his place. So we'll see if this gets to Bert. It probably will, even though he didn't really do anything. But I think he'll probably get freaked out that Brendan's calling him out. But Rogan will probably tell him to chill. Let me know what you guys think about it, though. And I just posted a new video to Patreon about how some comics met with Osama bin Laden's brother while over in Riyadh. And then also, I've been talking about Theo Von's crash out on there and MAGA turning on Rogan. Things are getting ugly. And there are over 150 other exclusive videos, so it's definitely worth it if you enjoy the channel. Make sure you check it out. There'll be a link in the description. All right, so Brett Weinstein was just on JRE, and Joe's bringing up all the usual topics he talks about on the podcast. He's kind of going through the motions, which means eventually he's going to spend probably at least 15 minutes praising Elon Musk. So when they got to that moment during this podcast, things got really awkward. It starts off cringy enough with Joe and Brett complimenting Elon's ability to make memes and send poop emojis. That's really what's going on here, but that's kind of normal stuff for Joe's podcast. It's really nothing too crazy, but eventually it really goes off the rails when Brett mentions that Elon blocked him on Twitter. But first I want to play them talking about Elon's emojis and memes.
He makes memes. He posts memes. When you post that meme of Bill Gates next to the emoji of a pregnant man, and said, when you want to lose a boner real quick.
Yeah.
That's wild.
The one where he was asked for comment. I don't know if it was the New York Times, but it might as well have been. And he sent back a poop emoji. That's a wise move because the rules of the game say, he refused to comment.
Right.
But you can't say that if he did comment and it was a poop emoji. You have to report that. So that was extremely clever.
Yeah, so at first it sounds like Brett is all on board with Elon. He's complimenting him for sending a poop emoji and everything. And I think he also mentioned that he believes Elon could save the world. I think he said something like that. But eventually he lets it slip that he thinks Elon could be doing a better job with Twitter or X. So of course Joe asks him what he means, and Brett's response is the funniest thing ever. His big problem with X is that he's not trending enough on there. That's basically what he says here. Of course it takes him 5 minutes because he has to say it in the most elaborate way possible. But he basically says there's a problem with X because when he did an interview with Tucker Carlson, he wasn't trending on there. But then I guess his first name started to trend under the sports category, and he clicked on it, and it was about Brett Favre. Even though he said there's still a lot of people talking about him, and he thinks their names got mixed up or something. But he's really looking into this. It sounds like he just wants to say that he's maybe shadow banned or something, but now Elon runs it, so he can't really say that.
There's still a lot of bad architecture inside of X. But if X remains freer.
Expand on the structure of it, the architecture that you think is...
Well, let's just say, I will use in my defense, I met with Elon, and he talked to me about something that I think he's talked publicly about, which is the fact that before he owned X, he could detect that the behavior with respect to his own account was not organic. That there was lots of structure inside that decided what to elevate and what to suppress. I feel this in my account. I've in fact seen very strange stuff up until last week. It's very hard to convey that to anybody because they don't know how good you are at sorting actual shenanigans from just feeling like a tweet should have done better than it did.
Right.
And, it was just luck of the draw.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's just basically trying to say that he thinks his Twitter account should be performing better. But of course he has to make it sound like the most complex thing possible and just beat around the bush because he probably knows it's kind of embarrassing to just say, I think I deserve more engagement on Twitter, or to try to make Elon look bad and be like, yeah, I don't think much has changed since he's bought the platform. But I think that's kind of what Brett is saying here in terms of his own account, at least. You know, right before this, him and Joe were talking about how great it is that Elon bought it and how he's saving free speech and that kind of stuff. But it sounds like Brett still thinks that his account is being censored or shadow banned or whatever you want to call it. But the only evidence he has of that is his Tucker Carlson podcast wasn't trending when he thought it should be, which is so funny. You know, to think that Brett Weinstein is staring at the trending tab thinking, why am I not trending right now? And then it turns into a giant concern for him. Like, I honestly never even really thought about people caring about it that much. But I guess he was really fixated on it. He felt like this interview was really good. He said it got a lot of views, which I don't know why he's complaining if it got a lot of views. You know, if you felt like it did well, who cares if it's trending or not? But obviously when he says he thought it should have been trending, I'd imagine he means it should have more engagement. It should have gotten even more views, because I don't know why else he would care so much about this, or he just really wants to see his name on the front page, which I guess that could be true too. That's definitely a possibility. But him being so worried about this, he just ends up making things so much worse. Wait till you hear what happens after this.
After my interview, I had 2 recent interviews with Tucker Carlson. The second one was about the border crisis, and it contained some really explosive stuff. It was not trending, which is weird for a Tucker interview, especially one that got as many views as it did. In the aftermath of this Tucker interview, I expected to see that interview and my participation in it trend because so many people saw it. It was like 6 million views in 2 days. So that it was obviously something that was being seen and discussed. And it didn't start trending. And then a weird thing happened. My name trended, but it was only my first name, and it trended under the category sports. And if you went to the tweets in the trend, they were actually about the Tucker interview. So the Brett...
Whoa.
Right. So what it turned out, somebody posted underneath, they said, oh, it's Brett Favre, that's why it says Brett. Favre. Ha.
Communist.
But the idea was that whatever the architecture in the back of Twitter was preventing me from trending, but he was allowed to trend, and because our names had this intersection, I could trend under his category.
And this gets even better because apparently he thought it would be a good idea to bring this up to Elon Musk and pester him about it, which is hilarious to think that Elon would be concerned about why Brett Weinstein isn't trending on Twitter. And it sounds like Elon barely even knows him. Like, Brett said he had to fly out to San Francisco just to get a 30-minute meeting with him. So they met once, but Brett thought it'd be appropriate to start complaining to Elon about how he doesn't trend enough on Twitter. I mean, Elon's obviously insanely busy, so for Brett to think that this is something that would concern him or this is something he has to know is just insane. But Brett keeps saying that the meeting went well, and at the end of it, Elon said that he wants to talk to him again, which he's probably saying just to be nice to him. You know, I'm sure Elon was really thinking, I don't have time for this. And I guess Brett didn't get the hint because he kept messaging him after the meeting because he claims his Twitter account was hacked and he had messaged Elon on there before, so he was worried about the messages being leaked or something, and he felt like he had to let him know. So he messaged Elon again, and then after that he continued to go into why he thinks he's shadow banned or whatever you want to call it. And you know how Brett talks, he takes forever to explain what he's saying, so I'm sure these messages were like paragraphs long, and he said he sent like 4 in a row, and eventually Elon, he is a funny dude because he had the perfect response. He just said, stop spamming me, and then blocked him.
To have its thumb on
Is he aware of this dilemma? You should alert him to this.
Here's the problem. Okay, and I don't know what this means, and I was not going to mention this. But this is the very thing. So I went to see Musk, as I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very good discussion. I spent about a half an hour with him. At the end of it, he said that he thought it was a good discussion and he wanted to meet again. And I said, anytime. On my trip back home, literally from that meeting, my Twitter account got hijacked for the first time ever. I've never had an account hijacked, but my Twitter account got hijacked and it started putting out some crazy spam stuff. And I was concerned about it because not only is it alarming to have your account captured, but I had been DMing with Musk, including encrypted DMs. So I contacted him, right? in alarm. And I
Yes.
said, my account's been captured. Not sure what to do about it. We were in a discussion, and we were talking about the fact that the account itself has weird behavior on Twitter, which I didn't know if that was relevant or not. And he asked me for more information, and I started to tell him about this trend stuff. He blocked me. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't think he's on the other team. I don't think...
He blocked you?
Yes. He blocked me, and I'm blocked to this day, which seems strange. It could be that he's forgotten that he's done it, but I don't think so.
Why would he block you?
I have no idea. It makes no sense. Now, it's possible that he's very busy. It's possible that he took what I was telling him about the behavior of my account as if I thought it was his obligation to pay attention to me personally, which I never thought, but maybe he interpreted it that way. The last thing he said was, "Stop spamming me," which was very strange for a guy who said he wanted to have another meeting, right?
How many messages were you sending him?
3 or 4.
Stop spamming me.
It was very strange. But look, I don't hold it against him. The guy is obviously, I think it's obvious that he is trying to save the world, and he's one of very few people who has the kind of power and insight to actually make an important difference in that. So I'm very much a supporter of what he's doing, even if I found that whole chapter strange.
And I love how they act like they don't know what's going on. They're all confused by it. Like, why would he say stop spamming? Why would he block you? Because it's pretty obvious he's just annoyed, and he's probably thinking, I don't have time for this shit. I mean, Brett's lucky that Elon would even listen to him at all about this, because he's treating Elon like he's Twitter customer service. Like, whenever he has a problem, he goes to Elon about it. And if you want to annoy Elon, I'm sure talking about how you feel like your account isn't doing as well as it should, or you're not getting enough views or engagement, is probably the quickest way to do that. And it's funny because obviously Brett wants to be friends with Elon. He wants to be on his good side, but he's doing everything wrong here. And I think he's already lost his chance, and I don't know if he'll ever be able to recover from this. I mean, Elon had blocked him at least 2 months ago. He first talked about it on the Rubin Report, but when he was on Joe's podcast recently, it sounds like he's still in shock, and he's still confused about what happened, even though everybody else understands what's going on. You know, most of the comments on that Dave Rubin clip are trying to explain it to him. This person said, "I like Brett, but I get the feeling Elon blocked him because he didn't have time to read a 90-page dissertation on what happened." And somebody else said, "Reading between the lines just sounds like Brett was that annoying new friend that kept messaging busy Elon till he was like, I gotta block this guy." And then I also saw Brett tweeted about this before he was on Rogan's podcast on February 4th. He said, "This is how crazy X becomes when Elon blocks you." And he tagged Elon. And then he said, "Elon found my discussion with Tucker Carlson interesting, but in order to know that, a stranger has to tell me, and I need to log out to see it. On what planet does that make sense? It ain't Earth or Mars, that's clear." So it sounds like he's just getting desperate, because I don't know what the point of this tweet is. I think people are already aware if somebody blocks you on Twitter, you can't read their tweets. That's not really anything new. And I'm sure he already knew that, but being blocked by Elon, obviously he's not handling that too well, and he's trying to think of some way to tweet about him and maybe get his attention or something. Because then after he's on Rogan's podcast, he tweeted about it again, and I don't know how he thinks this is helping. He tagged Rogan and Elon again, and he said, "Do me a favor and check this out. That weird thing where only my first name can trend, and when it does, it's miscategorized under sports, is happening again. Exactly as I described it to Joe Rogan in his last podcast. There are reach-limiting ghosts in your machine, Elon Musk." Yeah, so I don't know if he's ever going to give it up. You know, he just feels like Twitter is out to get him. It used to be shadow banning. Now it's the reach limiting ghosts, whatever that's supposed to mean. You know, I understand that it's weird, only his first name trends and it's under sports, but hassling Elon about it probably isn't the smartest move, clearly. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Joe will try to talk to Elon about it and get him to unblock him and maybe figure things out. But I don't know if Joe even cares enough to do that. Let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And then if you guys want more content from me, if you want to watch a video similar to this one about Eric Weinstein, you know, Brett's brother, who's just as cringy as him, He also had a moment like this a couple years ago when Tim Dillon made fun of him, and then he went on Joe's podcast to respond to it and completely embarrassed himself. It was so hard to watch. So if you want to hear about that, if you like this video and want more content, make sure you check out my Patreon account. There's over 65 other videos on there. Most of them are over 20 minutes. There's a lot of stuff to go through. So if you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.